Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about Capricorn archetypes, and I am going to be using Capricorn Sun, Moon, Ascendant examples. Now, anyway, first thing is, one person I see as a very strong Capricorn archetype is the late great New York Yankees owner, George Steinbrenner, who had a Capricorn ascendant at 29 degrees, which I see as the full culmination of the sign. Very strong Capricorn expression, I think. And I mean, many may have thought of him as everything but a ruthless dictator. But Capricorn, I mean, he was really, many may have also seen him as very tyrannical. He ran a very tight ship, but he managed to get the job done, and he consistently acquired the best players he could for his team to have the best chance for success, a perennial winner. No one could doubt the success he had as an owner, and he built the winners methodically, and he did it very successfully on many occasions. And I mean, obviously, Capricorn energy could be very ambitious, and saying that he was, well, that would probably be a vast understatement. Now, another person I think that strongly embodies Capricorn energy is Capricorn Sun, NBA superstar LeBron James. Excuse me. Now, he came into the league at the age of 18, and of course, he had grandiose expectations. I think he actually superseded them. 25 points in his first NBA game was simply a very strong harbinger of things to come. He handled really the pressure that he had entering the league with a lot of maturity, and I mean, which was really the pressure he had was inordinate, without a doubt. He had very high expectations. And really showed a lot of discipline, and has showed a lot of discipline as well. You don't really hear him getting embroiled in off-the-court controversies very much. And he's certainly a consummate professional. Now, I know that some people knock him for apparently he had broken his hand or something after the Game 1 loss in the 2018 NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors. But there's nobody that's infallible. I mean, we all have that moments from time to time. I certainly don't use that as any great knock against him. And it does, to me, it doesn't taint his greatness, really, in my mind. So anyway, well, another person I think of that is it really is like a prototype of Capricorn is the ex-pro football coach, Don Shula, I should say, legendary football coach, who has a son in Capricorn. He compiled a very impressive coaching record. I think it's 347 wins to 173 losses, I believe, 6 ties. He obviously, I mean, he was a perennial winner. Out of 33 seasons he coached, 27 of them were winning seasons. And, I mean, he really showed a lot of longevity and durability. They had a segment on TV one time when they were talking about how would you describe Don Shula, and so many people had responded using the word his consistency, or those were the words they were using to describe him. I mean, he, in Capricorn, of course, epitomizes consistency, so that was no shocker at all. To me, and I'm sure being a Capricorn Sun, he acted as a mentor and perhaps even a fatherly figure to many people. And Capricorn can be connected with this energy very strongly, and had even coached Super Bowl winners. So now what I want to do is I want to go to, on a personal note, I have a friend that has a Capricorn moon who strongly, I think, exemplifies Capricorn energy. Now, last time I checked, he has worked as a manager at a fast food place, and also does some work in real estate as well, working 2 jobs simultaneously. Now, when he became manager at the fast food place, it was at a relatively young age, and he showed tremendous maturity and ability to be responsible. And obviously, I mean, to me, he seemed much older beyond his years in terms of how he handled the position. And really, as I stated before, with a lot of that, I would say Capricorn-like maturity. And the thing, another person too I want to talk about, who I think is very emblematic of Capricorn energy, is John Walsh, who was the former host of that show AMW, and also the host of a show called The Hunt. Now, he is again a Capricorn sun, and I mean he shows a lot of consistency, tenacity in his relentless crusade to capture felons. And he is somebody that he is really, you talk about single-minded purpose. He is very, John Walsh obviously very strongly connected with that. And another, a person to me that strongly embodies Capricorn-like energy is former NBA player Dennis Rodman, who has a Capricorn ascendant. And he was, a relentless rebounder, and he concentrated, I believe, a lot of his energy into that aspect and element of the game. And the thing about what I find is interesting too about him, that he stated what had motivated him to constantly play hard and really maintain his position in the NBA, is that he didn't want to revert back to his old life. And naturally his old life, I don't know if it was impoverished conditions, but at least comparatively speaking, it probably was, in contrast to being an NBA player. And given that, it's interesting because Capricorn is the sign, of course, connected with limitation and restriction, and he did not want to go back to that limiting situation. So, obviously he showed a lot more ambition than the average person, and that ambitious quality obviously can be connected with the zodiac sign Capricorn. And Capricorns can often be specialists and concentrate their energy into one particular thing. And when during the time he was an NBA player, as stated before, he showed a lot of that single-minded focus on rebounding. He was also a very good defender as well. But anyway, now, I've talked previously about how actors and actresses may be consciously, if not subconsciously, drawn to roles that may correspond with their astrological energy. Now, actors Chris Maloney and Mariska Hargitay are certainly no exceptions. They both have Capricorn rising, and they were both on the show Law and Order SVU. Now, Chris Maloney isn't anymore. Mariska Hargitay, I don't know if she's still on it or not. But when they worked together on the show, they both showed, this very stern, serious disposition, often showing that single-minded focus and professionalism. And you really very rarely saw a whimsical or capricious side with either one of them. Both of them very rarely smiled whenever on the episodes that I had seen anyway. And they both have their ascendants at 15 degrees Capricorn. Their ascendants almost make an exact conjunction to each other, so it's no shocker they were like indelible fixtures connected to each other, joined at the hip, figuratively speaking. Now, and and those two obviously showed very, I felt like that Capricorn energy was really coming out very strong on that show. Now, again, another actor who I think might be bringing that Capricorn energy into his roles very often is Dwayne Johnson, otherwise known as The Rock, who has a Capricorn moon. Now, I think he does strongly embody a lot of Capricorn energy. He often plays a no-nonsense, hard-nosed character on the show. He is also known as The Rock, as many of you may know. And you talk about showing a lot of consistency in industry, and that certainly helped him develop the physique that he desired, with a lot of single-minded, ambitious energy. Now, in a lot of his time, I believe, has been devoted to having career success and constantly perhaps improving his stature in life. And this could all be synonymous with Capricorn energy. But sadly, he had come out at one point and stated, I believe he has dealt with some kind of depression. Now, Capricorn energy can often be one that is despondent and melancholy, and that could strongly be synonymous with the zodiac sign Capricorn. So, anyway, What I want to talk about again, another actor that comes to mind that really, as I stated before about how actors and actresses, I believe, can consciously, often if not subconsciously, be drawn to roles that correspond with their astrological energies. Again, Dustin Hoffman, who has a Capricorn ascendant. Now, many of you might remember he was in that movie entitled Marathon Man. And in that movie, he showed a lot of Capricorn-like discipline in it. And there was one scene I remember where I guess it was Sir Laurence Olivier was trying to coerce like some information from him, and he took like a drill or something to Hoffman's teeth. It was everything but a root canal or something were given him without the anesthesia or whatever. And the thing about it is. And he's still, best of my knowledge, Dustin Hoffman, whatever character he played, he did not relinquish, he did not give up that information that that Sir Laurence Olivier wanted to know. And then there was another scene in the movie when someone, may have been Lawrence Hilton Jacobs, who many of you may know from Welcome Back, Kotter renown. He was in that movie, and it was either him or one of his friends that played one of his friends in that movie were heckling at Dustin Hoffman and calling him creepy and twinkle toes, and showed Dustin Hoffman just looked at him and didn't say anything and just showed that's kind of like that Capricorn, discipline, I think, coming out in that movie, because Capricorns can often be about very strong restraint. And that brings me to another point. It was funny, I was watching, even though he was being really facetious when he said this. Now, Conrad Bain, best of my knowledge, has a Capricorn ascendant, if I remember correctly. And there was one scene in Different Strokes episode when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the legendary basketball player, played a teacher in one episode. And what happened was Conrad Bain had walked up to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and he said, it's something like, I don't remember what he said exactly, but something at least comparable to, I ought to slap you the way you slap my son. And then when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar stood up from his chair, he was obviously very imposing looking, and he was towering over Conrad Bain, because I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was like 7 feet tall, maybe even taller. And when Conrad Bain saw Kareem stand up, Conrad Bain said something like, "Well, you're lucky I'm a man of great restraint." And then Conrad Bain sat down. So it was almost like that Capricorn restraint coming out, but even though it was said in a very comical manner and facetious manner in that particular scene. But anyway, now sadly, Capricorn energy, like all astrological energy, can have their bad side, and really there is negative manifestation connected with all signs. And it's funny. It said there was one time when there was a Capricorn Sun manager I had worked with one time at a retail store, and what happened was, this is how the story goes anyway, is that apparently some guy that had come into the store, he was, I think it was like in the back stock room or something, he apparently had gotten electrocuted. And I don't know if he had died or not to this day, or if he survived, but the man that got electrocuted, apparently he was laying on the ground. And what happened was, the Capricorn Sun manager, he had walked by, and he had stated something to the effect, "Well, you need to move, and we got work to do." What I'm conveying, what I'm saying with this is that, Capricorn in a very negative manifestation can really show very undemonstrative, cold and callous energy, unfortunately. Remember, there is a reason they are the opposite sign of Cancer, because Cancer, of course, is really like the troubadour, so to speak, of nurturing, empathetic, sympathetic energy, and Capricorn, unfortunately, could be really the antithesis of that. And then there was somebody that was prominent in my life at one time who has a Capricorn moon. And instead of showing any kind of sympathy or compassion, when I would tell her about certain negative things going on with myself, she'd say something like, "Well, why don't you have a pity party or stop feeling sorry for yourself?" and just things to that effect. And I would say something to her, I guess something to the effect, well, I'm trying the best I can, and she would just yell at me and say, well, try harder. And really, the thing about it is that Capricorn can often abstain from really any strong, compassionate, or empathetic feeling. The funny thing too is the person that I'm describing in this, the person that was prominent in my life at one time, has actually a Cancer ascendant at 29 degrees, which I do see as the full culmination of the sign, which does show you how strong the moon can actually be in a natal chart, and at least in terms of modifying other astrological energy. Being her chart ruler, that probably had something to do with the fact that it might have strongly modified her Cancerian ascendant. Well, the one last thing I want to get at is that Capricorn can be, I mean, as I stated before with the example with Don Shula being a Capricorn sun, I mean, I saw him likely as somebody that might have been very fatherly to some of his players, especially the ones he had a good rapport with. I had actually worked with someone in New York that had a Capricorn sun. His sun sign was Capricorn, and he really, I mean, he, basically did everything to take me under his wing, I felt, and he was really, he saw me like a son, like a simulated son. And the funny thing is, he had there were a number of times we had gotten into it, but then, after I would leave, he would just take me right back, in a heartbeat. If I was, really, if I was gone from the job or something, or if he had let me go, he would tell me, like shortly afterwards, he would, he would take me back. I can remember one moment when I had gone into it with him, and what happened was I had taken off and left. And what happened was, if you could actually believe this, he went off, he came after me in his vehicle, and he told me, he said, do you want to work? And I said, okay, yes, I do. And he came, he drove after me, and I got in his vehicle, and we went back to the store, and I went back to work. That's actual true story. And because Capricorn energy, I mean, they could often be very fatherly, and I think because even though Capricorns, as I stated, can often be somewhat cold, even undemonstrative, they can also, I mean, their compassion, I think, can come out if they take you, like if it's a fatherly situation and they see you like a son, or if they happen to see you like family, that is when I think you can make that exception. They'll make that exception to that rule, so to speak, if you understand what I'm saying. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Capricorn archetypes. Stay tuned next time, where I'll be talking about Aquarius archetypes. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel, but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.